from your local election headquarters. This is Politics Today with Jackie Kingston.
1 week from today, polls will be closing in the municipal elections. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here for this special edition of Politics Today. In municipal elections, historically, very few people vote relative to how many people are registered to vote in Amarillo. According to the Secretary of State's office, the most recent number of registered voters was just more than 95,000 in Randall County and just more than 50,000 in Potter County. Early voting continues Monday and Tuesday of next week. And if you haven't voted yet, again, you still have time. Election Day is also on Saturday, May 6th. Polling locations will be open that day from 7 to 7. Throughout this week, we've been releasing interviews with the city council candidates on our website. My colleague David Gay did the truly yeoman's work of coordinating with each candidate for places 1 through 4 and then interviewing them one by one. There are something like 20 candidates running, so it was not an easy task. He really got to dig into the issues. He got to ask important follow-up questions. David will be joining us during this show in just a little while to talk about those races. But ahead for us here tonight, my extended interviews with the candidates for Amarillo mayor. Coming up, we're going to hear from all of them in ballot order, starting with Tanya Winston. Joining us now, Tanya Winston, who's running for Amarillo mayor. Tanya, thank you so much for coming in today. Thanks for your time.
Glad to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about what inspired you to run for mayor of Amarillo.
Well, I've always been a concerned citizen about the city of Amarillo. I am one of the people who, when voting season comes up, I'm usually that person that's always on social media telling people to get out and vote and how much it is very important for them to get out and vote. So I decided to step out on faith and make a difference. I have noticed that the city of Amarillo had been stagnant for far too long, and I just wanted to, have the opportunity to see what I can do to make a difference in the city of Amarillo.
Is this your first experience with politics?
This is my first experience with politics, yes it is.
What are some of the things that you would like to take in with you to your administration if you are elected for mayor? What are some of the things that you would really like to work on?
One of the most important things that I would like to work on is to make sure that all of our proposals, priorities are taken care of for the city of Amarillo based on what the citizens of Amarillo, Texas needs and concerns are. It is very important that the priorities, the budgeting, everything is allocated and distributedly throughout the city equally, taking care of our priorities. Safety and security is one of the main concerns that's on my agenda. FRT surveillance, our emergency response team, education, of course, it's like at the top of the list, the water infrastructure here in the city of Amarillo. And I just feel like I'm not a go along, get along person. I will sit at the table, we can negotiate and, do what makes sense, what's important for the city of Amarillo based on what the citizens want. Amarillo just been too stagnant for too far long with hidden agendas. We don't need any more hidden agendas. We need to be direct and personal with the city and the citizens here in Amarillo, Texas.
What's your plan to accomplish that? How would you and your administration be open to citizens and make sure that you're following up on what the citizens tell you that they need?
I would give them more time when they come to City Hall Give them more time to be able to voice their opinion. Give them more time to voice their concerns based on community. You know, I would think that, you know, you can even organize the different communities at different times at the City Hall and ask them, you know, okay, what can we do to help your community in the city of Amarillo? I just think that, you know, in order for this city to run productively and equally throughout the entire city, because that's my goal, is that the entire city of Amarillo is running productively, equally throughout the entire city. No community is left unattended with the priorities and needs and concerns for each community throughout the entire city of Amarillo.
Can you talk to me a little bit more about the other platforms that you have? You say that education is a priority and safety and security is a priority. What are some of the things, the actionable items that you would like to see go into place if you're elected?
I have to say it again. Safety and security. We need more technology. With the Amarillo Police Department, we have had so many homicides throughout the city of Amarillo. Amarillo is number 4 on like the worst of crimes in Texas. And Amarillo didn't used to have that type of ratio. And I think that in order for the people in this community to be comfortable and are able to sit in their homes and feel safe, or if they decide that they want to go to Toot and Totem or Cefco at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because maybe they want a ice cream Snicker bar, they can feel safe with leaving their house at that time of the night and able to go and move around and not be afraid to move around. So safety and security is number 1 for me. And I think that if we get the right type of technology, FRT, facial recognition technology, that will be able to recognize a individual's facial features, car, everything at least 2 blocks away, I think that will be a start. And what I would like is for that type of technology to be on every boulevard throughout the city of Amarillo. Yes.
My interviews with the candidates for Amarillo Mayor will continue after this. Next, we're hearing from Don Collins. Keep it here. Don Collins joining us now, running for Amarillo Mayor. Don, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for asking me.
Don, let's talk a little bit about what drove you to want to run for Amarillo Mayor.
Well, Amarillo's been good to me, so I wanted to give back. And mainly the senior citizens, we have no voice, and Amarillo has done nothing for us. And also for a safer Amarillo, but mainly for the senior citizens.
Tell me a little bit about your background. I know that you worked in the pharmaceutical world for a long time, and you've lived here for quite a while, but tell our viewers just a little bit about your story.
Well, I transferred here before CVS. I was with Ideal Foods, which Ideal Foods was here in Amarillo for years. And so once they sold out, looking for a job. So I went to work for Eckerd, which CVS eventually bought them out. So when Eckerd opened here in Amarillo, I was at the Georgia store, and I've managed every store in Amarillo, plus the one in Hereford, and I set up new stores for them, all over the Panhandle, Midland, Odessa. So
you've had a long career in the Panhandle, it seems like.
Yes, yes.
Don, I want to ask you about your platform. When you talk about senior citizens and wanting more for the senior citizens in Amarillo, what does that look like to you? What would you like to see enacted?
But you know that right now there is 15.6% of the population in Amarillo is senior citizens.
Wow.
And it's growing. And they have no place to meet. They have a lot of the businesses in Amarillo aren't senior friendly. So I want to allocate more money so we can finish redoing that senior citizen building. And you know, I don't know why Amarillo hasn't brought it up to a vote, you know, or a bond issue. We're kind of a second thought, the seniors are. And here a couple, 3 weeks ago, they had a meeting, Vision 2045. At that time, seniors weren't even mentioned in that. So we're a second thought. We need to be on the same level and be the first thought with the rest of Amarillo, the youth and the middle age, because we're all going to be seniors.
What got you interested in that as a platform, and you know, that's obviously something that compelled you to run. What was the impetus for that?
Well, you know, being in the pharmacy business, I dealt with a lot of seniors, and there's a lot of seniors out there that really, you know, don't have the money, and they're having to cut back. They're living in what you say bad places, and that's no fault of their own. They have no transportation. They have to depend on somebody else to take them somewhere. I know a lady that fell. She was 2 days before somebody checked on her, and she eventually passed away. So the seniors are just kind of forgotten, in my opinion.
You also mentioned as part of your platform making Amarillo safer. What does that look like?
Well, crime in Amarillo right now is like, we're ranked like 6th in the state. You know, I talked to the chief of police, and he indicated that, you know, they have everything they needed. Patrol cars are kind of running behind because of manufacturing, and they want more high-tech. And the city did appropriate, I think it was last city council meeting, some heat sensors and drones and license plate readers. But it kind of works like hand in hand. You clean the crime off the street, you clean up Amarillo, and that's going to help Amarillo be more economical, feasible for small businesses. You know, they're doing a good job as far as large businesses coming in, but we need to make it more feasible for small businesses.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Don, we've had, in recent elections, we've had folks who asked for recounts on the votes and didn't have faith in our election process. Do you have faith in that election process? What would you tell your voters about the safety of their vote?
I think, I don't see any problem in Amarillo. Now, nationwide, I believe there's a problem, but I think your vote is safe in Amarillo.
Don, what would you like to add? What would you tell folks who maybe are just getting to know you and looking at you as a candidate for mayor?
I want to be the voice for the senior citizens. I have no career demands. I have no financial demands. I have no distractions. I want to head us in a new direction, a new vision, and a new voice for Amarillo. I want to be the voice for the senior citizens and all of Amarillo, all the voters.
More of our interviews with the Amarillo mayoral candidates continue right after this quick break. Up next, we're hearing from Sam Burnett. Joining us now, Sam Burnett, running for Amarillo City Council, Amarillo Mayor, in fact. Sam, thanks for being here today. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, tell us a little bit about your platform. What made you decide to run for mayor?
Well, it's something I've actually been considering, me and my wife been talking about through the last election. And I kind of was like, well, you know, I've never been into politics, but there were so many things going on through the city of us headed in a direction where I felt like we were going to be a closed-minded city. And so a big part of that was, you know, just the outrage that continues to come out of we need to be a city for all people, because we have all different walks of life that live here. We have Muslims, we have Jews, we have LGBTQ. It's not just one kind of person. And so I wanted to make sure that, you know, we were doing that. And, you know, I work with the nonprofit ATAG, Amarillo Area Transgender Advocacy Group, and we had started having conversations with the city about getting some resources on the website. Because if you look at other city websites, they have those. Like, you can punch in senior citizen and a million things are going to pop up. Or you can punch in minority and it's going to give you LULAC and NAACP and LGBTQ. And the biggest thing that I've gotten discussion from our city manager is that the cost. And I said, well, if we do the footwork and get you the links, well, that just costs too much money. Well, then why do we have a city website that we just don't use? And so my biggest thing is like going back and giving the community back the community. Let's not spend $1 million on deductions to corporations. We've done that. We've done that. We've grown some corporations in the city. We've grown them all in South Amarillo. Let's put some money back into the community and see what we can do.
Sam, you mentioned working with ATAG, Amarillo Area Transgender Advocacy Group. I want to ask you about your work there through that nonprofit. What are some of the things that you could draw from your work with ATAG and implement if you are elected?
You know, I had never ran a nonprofit whenever we started the nonprofit, and you know, it was something that came up in our support group. Our founder, Sandra Dunn, you know, said, hey, what do y'all think about starting this? We had a meeting. I was elected the president, and I was like, okay, here we go. You know, we had to figure out how to put the nonprofit together. We had to figure out how to get our nonprofit status. We started with $30 in our bank account, and here we are. We made it through COVID. We made it through everything else. We've grown our doctors. You know, we keep resource lists. We keep safe space teachers, all these different things. And so I think, you know, learning how to work with different people, learning how to understand young children to even older people. You know, we have them of all varieties, and learning how to bring all those people together, because even within our community, we have different opinions.
Sure.
And so, you know, learning to do that, learning to put on these events that we put on, learning how to find assistance. You know, we get people that call. I had one last night that reached out from the Philippines.
Oh.
How do I get on hormone therapy? I then can go research the Philippines and find them some places. We have networks of people that I can reach out to from different states and say, hey, I have this mom or this child needing help. And so learning how to get out of my shell and ask for help, right? Like, that's something we can do in the city too. Here's a problem we're having. Let's go research what other cities had this problem, where they had maybe a good positive thing that we might want. And let's reach out to those cities. Let's ask for help. Let's not be too proud of ourselves to say, hey, we're not doing this good enough. Let's do this better. It doesn't mean it's anybody's fault, and we don't need to point fingers at this person or that person. It means that we need to get out of our prideful selves and say, what can we do different?
I want to ask you, as you bring up, you know, resourcing parents and kids and that kind of thing. I think a lot of people, there's a narrative right now in local politics, in statewide politics, and in national politics, talking about those options that parents and trans kids have. And I just want to give you an opportunity to talk about some fact versus fiction, what you guys are able to provide, what you're able to help with, and what you don't provide.
So the fact is we provide resources. We will not pay, like, as ATAG does not pay for hormone therapy or anything. We're not doctors. But what we do provide is we provide that open door for people to find their way and what they need. A child is not ever going to get on hormone therapy. What a child is going to get directed to is a therapist, because they're going to have to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria. And the biggest thing of a transition of a child is them wearing different clothes and using different pronouns. They will not get surgery, right? Because puberty doesn't happen at that age. So that's not even a discussion. It really is just something that people have hooked onto and latched onto as this fear that's not actually happening. You know, I didn't start HRT till I was 35 years old. Some people are starting it younger, but I mean, you have to go through a process. You're not gonna just go to the doctor and say, hey, I want this medicine, because the doctor's gonna tell you, then you need to go see a therapist. The therapist is gonna ask you to attend several strenuous sessions to determine that before they're gonna give you a release to a medical doctor to even prescribe any of that to you. And then, you know, I would say probably 90% of the doctors, that the surgeons require you to be of age and on HRT for at least a year before they will even do any of your surgeries. And it's not cheap, so it's not something that just happens on the fly. Most insurance companies don't cover our stuff, especially here in Texas. And so it's something that we come out of pocket for that's tens of thousands of dollars. Like, it's not like you're just popping a quarter in a bubblegum machine and getting surgery.
We have another Amarillo mayoral candidate interview coming up right after this. Next, we'll hear from Jeffrey McGonigal. Joining us now, Amarillo mayoral candidate Jeffrey McGonigal. Mr. McGonigal, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Thanks for your
True
time.
honor.
Well, let's talk a little bit about why you decided to run for Amarillo mayor. What brought us to this place?
Well, I've been in Amarillo for about 3.5 years. And about 4.5 years ago, I got a calling. I was in North Carolina, the Carolinas, Charlotte area. And I got a calling to come to the West Texas and sell everything I had. My daughter was going to college in Colorado, and said, come on. Mm-hmm. So I've been called here. It's a spiritual calling, sent here. After about 3 years of being in Lubbock and here, I found out the calling has become the next mayor of Amarillo. So, let me tell you a little bit about it.
Please, yeah.
Okay. So I'm called here as a 2-year mayor. I'm not from Amarillo, and it's a transformation. It's a a reinvention from Amarillo to Amarillo, kind of going back in time in a sense, into the heritage. But I'm the called mayor. I'm a mayor of destiny. If you have a calling, you're to go towards destiny. I'm a visionary mayor. I'm the mayor to see Amarillo's future, good or bad, depending on how it's chosen. I'm the bipolar mayor. I'm a mayor with a mental health condition. I represent those people. I'm a Buddhist Christian mayor. I bridge the gap between East and West, the full vision. I'm the mayor of the autistic, the ADD, the dyslexic, the learning disabled, and overall the disabled. My son has severe autism. I've taught people with disabilities for years. I'm the mayor, look at me, I'm the mayor of the meek. The meeks being the outcasts, the outsiders, the people that have all the talents in the world, but they're afraid to show up or they've been pushed out. I'm a mayor as a single parent. I'm the be me mayor, I call it. All I know how to be is me. Be me. I'm the mayor as a blue collar worker, which I did, white collar worker, a business person, a longtime teacher. That's why I use lots of buzzwords and words that have energy, and I like to bring that to the world. I'm a healer and a non-politician, basically a person in politics, but not a politician, in the world, but not as of it. My voters are those that think for themselves or desire to be the person that says, I just want to be me. know they have a special destiny and have the courage to achieve it, but need inspiration. Inspiration comes from someone who has taken the courage to be me. The person that takes the courage to wake up to themselves, clean up, grow up, and show up in the world, bringing what they're here to do, no matter what. So
that's a little about you.
I try to sum it up in that.
Yeah.
Often I bring a poem.
I have heard you during the city council meetings. A couple of them
fantastic.
have a poem. I was wondering if you would. But I'm glad to get to know you a little bit more. And I think coming from an outsider's sort of, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but having not grown up here in Amarillo, you have an interesting perspective on our city.
Yes.
What are some things that you think that you would like to see applied to our city that could bring it to that level of excellence that you expect of it?
Alex Fairley and I see eye to eye on something. He's the only one I've really heard talk about this, and it's the two-year mayor. I think Amarillo needs 2 years. I think we're looking at step back. Charlotte, North Carolina, when I moved there in 1990, had 500,000 people. They now have over 1 million people. They built an outer belt, it exploded. They did a good job of planning it and so forth. I see that for Amarillo. I see, though, that right now, Amarillo, we aren't prepared for it. So these next 2 years, and this is what Alex talks about, is a time to step back, plan for this, fix things, really to wake up to what's here, what needs to be fixed, what we're doing well, what needs to be healed, and then clean it up, including ourselves. And then we can grow up. And when I say grow up, because it's kind of a thing to say, that's moving forward. Growing up is moving forward. And then we show up. And really to take 2 years, that's just unheard of for a city to take 2 years. And we continue to move forward, but at the same time we have this eye on the prize. And really it's an example for the country, it's an example for the world. So that's kind of how I see this 2-year mayor. It's this guy that's coming in with a calling. I've been called to do this. I had no idea. I couldn't have thought this. I couldn't have thought it. So it's like I'm here for 2 years to get this thing moving, and then that'll be it.
Sort of direct the path of the city.
Absolutely,
in that way.
absolutely. There's brilliant people. I'm not one to come in and go, okay, let's do it Jeff's way. I'm the one, I want to hear 201,500 people's voice, because I know from teaching all the people and my experience, I know that everybody's got a voice and a destiny.
We have another interview with candidate for Amarillo mayor after this. Coming up, we'll hear from current city council member and candidate for mayor, Stanley. Councilman Stanley, running for Amarillo mayor, joining us now in studio. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, Jackie, thank you for having me. I always enjoy doing your show.
Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about what brought us to this place. What made you make the decision to want to run for Amarillo mayor?
You know, that's one of the toughest questions that I answer. Like, why would you want to do this? And I think it's because it's a really good question that asks, like, why would you want to go take on these problems, this additional workload, go down and try to affect something that so many people before you that are even more qualified than you haven't been able to solve, you know? And so the reality of it is that I truly believe Amarillo's in a really critical moment in our growth. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's positive growth. But I have the opportunity to impact policy and to impact Amarillo in a very unique way. And so I think that because it's critical, the way in which we grow over the next 2 to 5 years is going to impact, you know, the next 40 or 50. So I want to get off the sideline and just stay involved.
As you have served on the city council, you have a unique perspective that you could bring into this office. And I wonder if there are policies that you see happening now that you would like to continue to work on, if there are good things in the works, or if you're interested in leading and taking kind of a new approach.
So I think it will be, obviously it will be new leadership. And that's just because if I get elected, I have a minimal amount of experience with 2 years. And then I have 4 new leaders to work with. And so that will have its own chemistry, its own makeup, and it will go its own direction. And hopefully for the better. No matter how good things are, they can always be better. And we should always strive for that. And it's not a critique of where we've come from, it's just an acknowledgement of progress and moving forward. Let me brag on the city in the way of like, I know I have some unique perspectives and that I haven't always agreed with every direction we've taken, but some of the things that we are really doing a good job, like our neighborhood empowerment zones and our neighborhood associations, bringing communities together that will get out there and do the work so that we as leaders get to assist you and not go and try to solve your problem for you. We're willing to kind of go fight with you. So those are really good things. Some of the academies that we've put in, so the police academy, the fire academy, big fan of that, really want to see that grow. And then public safety, I think, is one of the most important things you can focus on, both budgetary and just in the way of support and culture and community. And so having our own academies where we're able to kind of raise up our own, develop that camaraderie, try to keep them here and let them grow into that position. Those are a couple of my favorites.
As we look at the growth of Amarillo and what you've experienced in your 2 years serving on the Amarillo Council, City Council, as we kind of look at that, there are some things happening in our city that we may need to account for. And you as a builder in your job are very familiar with homes and building homes and new development and making sure that people have affordable, good housing when we're attracting this new talent to our area, that they have a quality of life that is affordable, and that's good. Is that something that you're interested in continuing to build on? I know some things are already in the works, like you said, with the neighborhood developments.
Well, one thing that's in the works, and then I'll build on that into kind of what I'd like to see. The city has a new building chief. Johnny Scholes does a fantastic job over there, will continue to do a better job as we allow him with some new technology and some new tools to try to streamline building safety. The number one way that I could affect the bottom line in Amarillo, Texas, is by making the ability to do business within your own city easier on you. And so that requires more trust for our contractors, our builders, our business owners, our residents. And then a little bit more trust in our building officials in the way of like, you've got to trust that inspector that he's out there making the right calls. And I think you can do that without bringing liability on yourself. I think you can do that through technology. And then I think you can do that in a way where you provide some consistency for people when they're coming to Amarillo, that one, they want to be here and they want to do business with us. And two, they know how much it's going to cost. And there's not a constant hurdle that's put in front of them. And so that's something that I'm really eager to work on. And I have a good plan of how to do that. I haven't been able to implement much over the last 2 years. But a lot of that's just because we've had a transition and our new chief, only got in there a little over a year ago, I think, at this point.
What are some of those things that would be practical changes that people would see if you are elected and then your ideas are put into practice?
So let me try to separate for you just in the way of a builder would see it. Life safety issues, things that you cannot compromise on. Structural integrity, fire, sprinkler systems, egress, all of those things that we have to make sure we're on top of, and doing our job as the right role of government. To make sure that you're in a safe place when it's a public place. However, then there's all sorts of other things that are personal responsibility issues. Things like plan review, permitting, zoning, also the inspection process in the way of we are inspecting and we're looking at a lot of things that have to do with some energy efficiencies that we don't necessarily have to look into. We also have some other things that may have items that are more personal preference for you, that if we allow our owners to be responsible for those items, then we can drastically affect the speed at which we do business, which hits your bottom line every time.
We have one final candidate for mayor on the ballot, and she's also a current member of the Amarillo City Council. Going to hear from Frida Powell after this. Joining us now, Amarillo City Council member Frida Powell, who is running for Amarillo mayor. It's so nice to have you in studio today. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jackie. It's always a pleasure to be here and appreciate the invite to visit with you today.
Absolutely. I think that a lot of voters and our viewers will know you from your prior experience on the Amarillo City Council. You've been in a term of office there since 2017. You've served repeated terms of office until this point. What made you think that you wanted to run again and for a different role, for the mayor?
Well, I love our city. I love Amarillo, and I really want to continue my service, and I want to serve Amarillo and serve the citizens in Amarillo. And so just the arc of success that we have going right now and the momentum, I really want to continue that for our city.
What does that look like to you? What do you think that, what are some practical things that you'd like to see happen in this term if you are elected?
Well, I do want to focus on public safety always, but then I also want to continue to focus on the growth for our city, and that is bringing in good businesses and industries with great jobs and quality benefits, just so that our next generation will be able to make a livable wage. I think that's very important.
I know that in the past several years that you've served on the City Council, there have been a number of issues and a number of unprecedented experiences. I think that this council has had to face COVID being one and probably the most major. What are some experiences that you have learned through navigating those previous few years that you've served as a council member that you think that you'll be able to take into the mayor role if you are elected?
Well, I know over those years, especially through COVID and everything else, you learn to listen, to listen to our citizens and listen to the businesses that do have issues and problems. So I just believe that when people are truly heard and their voices are heard, they feel appreciated and know that you're working on their behalf. And I have really tried to do that over my past 6 years of serving on City Council. And that is, I just want to help citizens and continue to serve. And so I think, the listening skill is very important.
I think that it'll be an interesting change if you are reelected, in my opinion, because there are so many new faces that will be on the council, yes. New levels of experience, new interests, new personalities. How do you hope to approach navigating all of those and building consensus as you're known for?
Well, one of the things that I've always done is focused on building relationships, and I've done that prior to needing to sit down and focus on some issues with citizens. But I think it's very important to build those relationships. And as a new mayor, if I am elected as a new mayor, one of the things I want to do is make sure that the council is working as a team, and that means that we're going to have to do some team building exercises, and we'll have to bring on some professional help to do that and be able to navigate that process. And I want a council of independent thinkers, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to getting the work done for our city, I want the team to be focused and on board, and I want a productive council. I don't want a dysfunctional council. So I really want to work together and build relationships, and that's what I've done my entire life.
Councilwoman Powell, I want to ask you about your hopes to increase public safety. I think that's something that you have mentioned probably every time I have interviewed you about why you continue to serve and have continued to ask voters to support you in that mission. What practical ways would you like to see public safety, excuse me, being expanded if you are elected mayor? What are some of the things that maybe you haven't gotten accomplished that you still hope to be able to do?
Well, within public safety, I've worked on, fully funded a crime center, and I think that that's highly important for our city, which is going to give our first responders, the information and resources that they need almost instantly. So when they're out in the field, they can be able to, address the issues that are going on, but yet have the information that's needed in a, very fast-paced environment. And so that's important to me. Infrastructure is important as well, and that is just making sure that we are taking care of our roads and streets. And so I do want to take care of what we have. We have a lot of facilities that are aging over time, and I want to spend dollars wisely. When you have facilities that are 50 and 60 years old, and you're continuing to invest in those facilities, that's not a very good use of money, especially if the facility is deteriorating, and it's going to cost more to repair than it would to look at maybe, building new or getting an existing building. So.
We have our full interviews with those candidates for Amarillo Mayor and our interviews with the other candidates for City Council posted in full for you on our website, myhighplains.com. We unfortunately don't have time in this show to show all of our interviews, but coming up next, we're going to hear from Politics Today's David Gay as we get his thoughts on the other races on the ballot for Amarillo City Council. More to come. Joining us now in studio, myhighplains.com reporter David Gay. David, it was yeoman's work to get all of the candidates for Amarillo City Council in and interviewed, but you did it. And I just want to ask for your general takeaways on all of the other places.
Very green. There's not any city council candidate who has been in this position before. There are a couple of folks who have run for positions in the city council before or for mayor before, but none of them have actually been in the seat. So what's interesting is that regardless of who wins, at least in the city council places, none will have that experience before.
It is interesting to think about that it will be a learning process, a learning curve for so many of these folks. We know that there could be, like you've said, an 80%, 100% turnover in the council, and so we won't have that institutional knowledge. And it'll put, I think, the rest of the city staff in an interesting position as well to be able to teach and to help those folks get up to speed.
Some see that turnover as a good thing, though.
Sure.
They see that they want to bring a new perspective to the city council. Some have even said that what's currently going on now, they're not hearing the citizens, they're not hearing the people. So having a brand new council gives the opportunity for those people who believe they haven't been heard before to have a voice in how the city of Amarillo works.
Did any of them talk about expanding the city council and adding more places and adjusting the charter? This has come up for voters before, but we have a relatively small council with just 5, including the mayor.
None of them did. A lot of the topics were kind of similar throughout all the places. It was the Civic Center as the catalyst for why they ran. Right. And then it was basically back to foundational basics for an approach to the budget, whether that's sanitation, water, sewer, and then you basically stressing using what the city has to the best of their ability and not, I guess, getting too carried away with the city's budget, focusing on those foundational needs.
If we go place by place, I know in place 1, voters will see a name on the ballot that will be on the ballot because Ray White missed the deadline to withdraw, but
Yes.
we didn't talk with him because
No,
he
we did
doesn't
not.
plan to win.
Yeah, he told us pretty early on that he he's not actively campaigning. He intended to withdraw from the race, but he just didn't get there in time. So that is why we did not talk to him.
What else stands out to you about place 1 candidates?
Just the sheer amount of people.
Yeah.
And I think there's been, I think all of them, if I'm not mistaken, have not run before. So this is pretty much this one and then place 2 are the most green places where no one has ran for these positions before. So what's going to be interesting is that perspective, what those particular places bring to the council once somebody's elected. Place 1 with the sheer amount of individuals could hypothetically go to a runoff, just because votes can, even if votes split in a certain way, it's likely that none of them will get the amount needed to win the race outright.
Right, 50% plus 1 vote
Yep.
would be an outright winner, and everything else will go to a runoff. So I think it would be a really interesting situation if we didn't have at least 1 runoff in these few races. What about council member place 2? What stands out to you in that place?
That they all go to the same church.
That was an interesting thing, yeah.
Whenever I talked with Misty and Dawn and Gabriel to an extent, they all mentioned about going to the same church and how, regardless of whoever's elected in place 2, there'll be good representation. They're very supportive of each other, but that's really what stood out to me about place 2.
What about place 3?
Place 3 is very interesting because you have the candidate Tom Sherlin, who's run for place 3 before. If you may remember, he went against Eddie Sauer in the last election.
Right.
And then you have Kat Massey, who is a former city employee, and she's putting her hat in the ring, trying to distance herself from the city. In some cases, in some of her answers, she talked about saying she didn't really agree with some of the votes that the city council took, but getting to see on the inside as a city employee kind of the inner workings, saying that's a benefit. And then you have John Adair, who used to work at he was involved in Tent City. Oh, yeah. And then he said that he was exposed to politics in that way. So all 3 of them really have some kind of background into how the city of Amarillo works.
Place 4 is one of the places where we see people who are maybe familiar in previous municipal elections, Claudette and Gunny Brown.
Yeah, and then you have John Ingerson, who has also ran for a city council position as well. But the newbie to the bunch, Les Simpson, you may remember, he worked at the Globe News for a long time. So, all of them have the background. Les has the background to knowing how the city works by covering it for 30 years. So it's interesting that this one, I would say, probably has the most experience out of all of them, kind of knowing how to run a campaign, how the city works. So that's one of the races that I'm going to be looking at a lot to see where do the voters want to go in their perspective on that.
All of those interviews available for you right now on our website in full, unedited, myhighplains.com, the way to go. David, well done with all of these. You asked really important questions, and I'm really proud of the work that you've done with this. So thanks for being here today as well.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Okay, we'll be right back. So don't forget that early voting continues Monday and Tuesday of this week, and only Monday and Tuesday of this week. So do please make plans to cast your ballot then or on Election Day on Saturday. Also, over on our website, we have a Q&A from the candidates for local school boards. We didn't want to leave them out of this discussion. And for the Amarillo College Board of Regents, those will be posted in full on our website, myhighplains.com, early this week, where we have continuing election coverage. And of course, join us here next Saturday night for all of your election returns. Thanks so much for being here for a special edition of Politics Today. We'll see you soon.